Welcome to another lesson where we're going to take a look at conditional clause. Conditional clause. So, what is a conditional clause? Of course, conditional clauses come under rewrites. Maybe you are lost. So the under rewrites they come in paper 2. You can use the skills when writing composition, but here our focus is rewrites or transformations. Okay. So what is a conditional clause? So a conditional clause is a sentence that shows the condition needed for something to work. Okay. So this conditional clause will have two parts. The first part is a condition, or the second part is what's going to happen if that condition is met. Okay. So words that are most used in the conditional clauses are so the first one is if. Okay, for you to understand a conditional clause even better, let's take a look at this sentence. You have to study hard for you to pass the exams. So this sentence has two parts. Okay, the first part is the condition, which is study hard. The second part is what's going to happen, and that is the exam. So you study hard, you pass the exam. Okay, so there is a condition, then there is what's going to happen. Okay, so if this sentence has to be transformed using if, or if you have to rewrite it using if, it becomes like this. If you study hard, you'll pass the exam. If you study hard, you'll pass the exams. So the pattern is if, the condition, what's going to happen. If, the condition, what's going to happen. You have to study hard for you to pass the exam. If you study hard, you will pass the exam. Okay. So another way that is used uh, on conditional clauses is unless. So unless means something like if not. We have learned if, but unless is if not. So in vernacular, when we use unless, we tend to use it with our vernacular. We end up misusing it. Okay, so that has also become part of our broken English. When we're speaking, we misuse unless. Okay, for example, this sentence can make sense. I'll come unless you give me money. I will come unless you give me money. But it's wrong, because when you say I will come unless you give me money, you mean I will come if you don't give me money. Okay, so the point that I'm trying to convey is I can only come if you give me money. So if you say I will come unless you give me money, how are you going to go there? Because you won't have money. Because when you say I will come unless you give me money, you mean I will come if not you give me money, or I will come if you don't give me money. Okay, so that's how we misuse unless. Let's take some examples here. If you studied, you will pass the exams. If you studied, you will pass the exams. Okay, so if you studied, you'll pass the exam. So let's rewrite this using unless. So of course we may be tempted to write unless you studied, you will pass the exam. It's wrong. Unless you studied, you'll pass the exam, because if you say unless you studied, you'll pass the exam, you mean if not you studied, which in proper English can mean if you don't study hard, you pass the exam. How can you pass the exam if you don't study hard? Okay, so I think you understand now. So saying unless you study hard, you pass the exam, it's wrong. It's supposed to be unless you study hard, you will not pass the exams. Unless you study hard, you will not pass the exams. If not you study hard, okay, you will not pass the exams. So the condition, if you use unless, it becomes in the negative. If you study hard, if you use unless, it becomes if you don't study hard. Okay, you'll pass the exams. So this also has to be in the negative. You will not pass the exams. Okay, so negatives like you put no, not. Words like no, not, won't. Okay, so if you studied, if you use unless, it becomes if you don't study, you will pass the exam. You have to put it also in the negative. You will not pass the exams. Okay, what about this one? He will not come to the party. It's supposed to be party here with Y if you don't invite him. He will not come to the party if you don't invite him. So it will be, if you want to use an S, of course, it will be, this one is already in the negative, will not come to the party. So it will be, of course, this is what's going to happen. The condition is here. So we start with the condition. So unless you invite him, meaning that if you don't invite him, which is the way it is, he will not come to the party, which is the way it is. Okay, so this one is in the negative and this one is already in the negative. He will not come to the party if you don't invite him. So we start with the condition, of course. So if you don't invite him, which is unless you invite him, okay, not unless you don't invite him, no, unless you invite him. When you say that, it means you have said if you don't invite him, he will not come to the party. Okay, that's how to use unless. Next, we look at until or till. So until or till means before. So until means before. Okay, so its opposite is not until. Not until means after. So be very careful. So you can have such a sentence: you'll never pass the exams until you study hard. Okay, so if we replace this with before, here it's going to be you will never pass the exams before you study hard, meaning that for you to pass the exams you need to study hard. Okay, so you'll never pass the exams until you study hard. Okay, so if you want to rewrite this using not until, meaning after. Okay, so meaning you will not pass the exams before you work hard, meaning that you'll pass the exams after you work hard, right? You'll pass the exams after you work hard. So if you want to start with after, it will be after you study hard, will you pass the exams? So I want you to notice something. After, we have written the condition first. After you study hard, then what's going to happen? You pass the exams. But the way you write the English here is after writing the condition, you continue the sentence with will. After you study hard, will you pass the exams? So not until you study hard will you pass the exams. Not until you study hard will you pass the exams. Let me take it slow. If you don't pay him, he will quit. If you don't pay him, he will quit. Okay, so if we want to write this using not until, how can we rewrite it? So there's a situation here. Okay, the condition is someone has to get paid, and what's going to happen if he's not paid? He will quit. Okay, so if we want to use after, it will be after you pay him, he will not quit, right? After you pay him, he will not quit. Think about it. After you pay him, he will not quit. So if you want to use not until, it will be not until you pay him will he not quit. Okay, after the condition, the next the sentence has been continued with will. Okay, will he not quit? Okay, so that's how to use it. I will not eat if you don't add salt. I will not eat if you don't add salt. Meaning that before you add salt, I will not eat. But after you add salt, I will eat. Okay? So meaning not until you add salt will I eat. Not until you add salt will I eat. Finally, we look at had it not. Had it not. Okay, he managed to win because of his speed. So this person won because of what? His speed. So the condition is this part, the speed part. Okay, so how do we rewrite it? Okay, using had it not. Okay, so this is what happened, and what made that to happen was this. Okay, so had it not is used to show that if it wasn't for this, then this could not have happened. If it wasn't for this, then this couldn't have happened. Okay, so we will start had it not, then we say this the condition, or the factor that made it possible. Then we say then we say this which happened, but we say it in the negative. Like, if it wasn't for this, then this could not have happened. If it wasn't for this, then this couldn't have happened. So it becomes like this: had it not, and it's always followed by being. It's always followed by being. Okay, had it not been for, okay, had it not been for his speed, he wouldn't have won. Had it not been for his speed, we were trying to make this negative, he wouldn't have won. So there's always going to be being, and there's also going to be wouldn't. Okay, had it not been for his speed, he wouldn't have won. Okay, he managed to carry the boxes because of his strength. So the boxes were carried. Why? Because he had strength. Had it not been for the strength, he wouldn't have managed to carry the boxes. Okay, had it not been for his strength, he wouldn't have managed to carry the boxes. If you're having tough time, think about it. It's simple. Just go through and see how it is transforming. Okay, so this marks the end of conditional clauses. Hope you have learned a thing. See you in the next lesson.